Tonight, we're diving into one of humanity's absolute greatest adventures. But look, this isn't just a story about shiny rockets and brave astronauts. This is a story about high-stakes drama, incredible risk, and a single, almost impossible goal that ended up defining an entire generation. And it all kicked off with this one incredibly bold challenge. See, in 1961, President Kennedy didn't just announce a policy. He drew a line in the sand for the whole world to see. Landing a man on the moon wasn't just some vague dream anymore. Suddenly, it had a deadline. The starting pistol for the space race had just been fired. So, you have to ask, why was this such a big deal? To get that, we've got to look at the world stage. After World War II, the planet was basically split down the middle, locked in this tense ideological struggle. And this Cold War, well, it wasn't just going to be fought with spies and politics. No, it was about to be fought in the silent, cold vacuum of space. So on one side, you have the United States pushing capitalism and individual freedom. And on the other, you've got the Soviet Union, the titan of communism. Each side was absolutely convinced their system was the future of humanity. And space? Well, space became the ultimate arena to prove who was right. Every single launch was a test of who was better, technologically, militarily, and ideologically. And in the beginning, it wasn't even a contest. The late 1950s, they belonged completely to the Soviet Union. I mean, while America was still trying to get its rockets off the ground, the USSR was already making history, taking what was, frankly, a terrifying lead. The year that changes everything is 1957. The sky itself, something humans have looked up at for thousands of years, was about to become a new battlefield. And then came this simple, rhythmic sound, a beep, 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 broadcast from radios all over the world. That was Sputnik 1, and it was a technological earthquake. It was a clear signal that the Soviets had conquered the high ground. And for Americans, the fear was real. If the Soviets could put a satellite over your head, they could definitely put a bomb there too. But what's really fascinating is that the genius behind all of this was a total mystery to the West. He was known only as the chief designer. His real name? Sergei Korolev. This guy was a brilliant engineer who not only survived Stalin's prison camps, but came back to become the secret architect of the entire Soviet space program. His identity was one of the Kremlin's biggest secrets. So, 4 years after Sputnik, while America is still scrambling to catch up, Korolev and the Soviets are getting ready to deliver another massive blow, a moment that would really cement their dominance. On April 12, 1961, Yuri Gagarin became the first human being to ever go to space. He orbited the Earth and came back a global hero. I mean, think about it. The first person to see our planet from the darkness of space? It was a huge moment for humanity. But for the United States, it was another gut punch. They were falling further and further behind. It was exactly this string of second-place finishes that lit a fire under the U.S. and led right to Kennedy's moon speech. They were tired of losing, so they decided it wasn't enough to just catch up. No, they had to leapfrog the competition with a goal so wild, so far beyond what was possible, that it really did sound like science fiction. And they had a plan. It wasn't just wishful thinking. First up was Project Mercury. That was all about just getting into the game, proving an astronaut could even survive in space. Then came Project Gemini. This was the crucial practice round, where they learned how to do spacewalks and dock 2 ships together in orbit, stuff you absolutely have to know for a moon mission. And finally, Project Apollo. This was the main event. Because at the end of the day, the race to the moon was really a race of rockets. America built the Saturn V, a 36-story tall beast of controlled power that incredibly worked perfectly every single time. The Soviets, they built the N1. On paper, it was powerful, but its design was a nightmare, relying on 30 smaller engines all firing at once. It was a recipe for disaster. It exploded on all 4 launch attempts. Honestly, this is where the race was really won and lost. And you can really see America's momentum building here. By Christmas of 1968, the Apollo 8 crew became the first people to ever leave Earth's orbit and circle the moon. And while they were there, they took the iconic Earthrise photo. For the first time, humanity saw our own fragile blue planet just hanging there in the dark. And for a moment, all that Cold War rivalry just melted away. All those years of work, all the money, all the triumphs, and yes, the tragedies, it all came down to this one flight, Apollo 11. This was it, the final, nail-biting sprint to the lunar surface. So, on July 16th, the Saturn V rocket did its job perfectly again and threw Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins toward the moon. 4 days later, Armstrong and Aldrin got into the lunar module, the Eagle, and started their descent. The entire planet was holding its breath.
But it was anything but easy. As they got close, alarms started blaring in the cockpit. Even worse, the computer was taking them right into a crater filled with giant boulders. Any one of them could have ended the mission. So Neil Armstrong, a former test pilot, just took over. With pure ice in his veins, he took manual control and started flying the lander like a helicopter, searching for a safe spot to touch down. And all the while, Mission Control is in his ear, counting down the fuel. 60 seconds left, 30 seconds. They were literally running on fumes. If they didn't land in the next few moments, they'd have to abort. The margin for error was gone. It was zero. And then, through all that static, came the impossibly calm voice of Neil Armstrong. Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. You can just imagine the explosion of relief and joy at Mission Control. The whole world just exhaled. They had actually done it. A few hours later, Armstrong came down that ladder, his boot pressed into the fine lunar dust, and he said these words that we all know. And what's so amazing about that line is that it just transcended the Cold War. It turned an American victory into an incredible achievement for every single person on Earth. So, the race to the moon was over. America had planted its flag. But you know what? That's not where the story ends. Not even close. The legacy of this crazy competition would end up shaping the future of space exploration in ways nobody saw coming. I mean, just look at this table. It really tells the story, doesn't it? The first satellite? USSR. The first man in space? USSR. First spacewalk? USSR. But then you see the momentum shift. First to orbit the moon? That was the USA. And the ultimate prize, the first moon landing, USA. It was a true back-and-forth fight. And then something really remarkable happened. In 1975, long after the race was won, an American Apollo spacecraft actually docked with a Soviet Soyuz capsule in orbit. The commanders, once bitter rivals, opened their hatches and shook hands in space. The race that started with fear ended with a handshake, paving the way for things like the International Space Station. So why should we care about this today? Well, because while America won the political race, you could argue the real winner was science. The need to solve all these impossible problems led to breakthroughs in computing. I mean, the computer in your pocket is a direct descendant, but also in GPS, materials, and medicine that we use every single day. And maybe most importantly, it gave us a new look at our own planet. And all this kind of leaves us with one big question, right? The incredible push to the moon was fueled by this intense rivalry between two superpowers. Now that the Cold War is over, what's our motivation? What's going to drive the next great leap? Will it be business, international cooperation, or just that timeless human need to see what's over the next hill?